Old.
Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the 3rd January podcast. My name is Nate, and I'm here in my studio again with Ranger Liz.
Hello.
And Lich Lord Brian.
Hello.
So, last week we promised you a very, very special episode on getting the party to mesh. And I'm really looking forward to this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're doing that. I have absolutely no idea. I have always had trouble with that. So I am ready to hear ideas from you two.
Okay. I'm actually going to be able to take from some recent experience on this.
Okay.
Brian, did you want to start us off this week, or should I?
You should. I've got a little bit, but I'm hoping
Okay.
to respond off a little bit.
Well, pardon me, audience. My experience has been, if you can get the characters outside of their normal game time to get together, maybe on Skype, put down their character sheets for just a little bit, just keep a basic idea of all that stuff they did to build their character. Talk about how the hell everyone met. How do you know each other? How did you meet? And then have them...
See, for most of our campaigns, it seems like we're a collection of random murder hobos.
Yes.
Which is a slight problem. The assortment of trained assassins and everything else just don't tend to work well together.
Everyone seems to want to play the lone wolf, and then you start sticking a whole bunch of lone wolves together,
And yeah, you get no party mesh. But I've seen this works just so many times. And surprisingly, somebody who you're not particularly fond of, Liz, as a GM, she's actually found that this technique works quite well.
Because clearly I don't know this person. So.
No, you don't. Just having people, it's like when we go into the game, we already knew each other to some degree. So it's like, well, how did you all meet? And we start talking about it, and it's like, oh, well, I met KL, she was down and out, she was depressed, and because I'm a pirate, I offered her a chance at adventure. I offered her an officer's cut of the treasure, and the chance to learn and improve her skills for leadership, and to make something more of herself. And, talking about that even with Kale's player, and just building up that bond of our characters, just really sort of helped out a lot.
Hey,
Hmm?
does this person that you described earlier, who's running a game, does she watch these?
As far as I know, no.
Does this person not know that Liz does not like her?
I was about to say, I've always been nice to this person whenever I talk to her.
And cut! Okay. Take 2 in 3, 2, 1. So, one of my GMs online has this technique she developed, where she has us on Skype talk about how our characters met. And she gets, the players together, and it's like, well, these two players, they kind of start off together, and, your backgrounds are kind of originally united. You two were the first two you said you two were, the first two to meet, so how did you two meet? And she has us interact that out in character. And then, it's like, well, then, this guy was the next guy to join your group. How did that interaction go? And that just builds up the party and allows us to go in there already being a unified machine. Because we kind of know, in the case of the particular game I'm in with, for example, we have one character, KL, and my character, I approached KL as the captain of a pirate ship. And I'm like, I can see that she's pretty much just drunk on the table, just going, refill, like, rum me. And it's like, okay. And then I see, she's carrying jade weapons, and, okay, I think this is an important character. This is a powerful person. I want to get them on my crew. So I, start talking to her, and it's like, hey. I can see by the way you're dressed, you're a sailor. I might have a job offer for you. And presented, the life of a corsair to this young woman. And she's like, you know what? That sounds good. It gets me out of here. I got nothing left for me in this town anyway. Yeah, sure, sign me up. And just doing that interaction was wonderful. And then I get to meet my gunner soon. And we're gonna have that interaction where I'm adding our gunner. And then I still need to find us a shipwright. Because that's like the one major job that we don't have anybody to do. We don't have a shipwright.
Alright.
My recommendation? Find someone who's like an android who runs on cola.
Yeah, well, we're working on that. Unfortunately, we haven't found her yet, so...
Her should be a him who wears a Speedo and like a Hawaiian shirt. Always open.
Okay. I'll admit to drifting off a little bit in that conversation, so I didn't quite follow that.
But yes.
I would like to bounce off of your idea a little bit because I do have an experience role-playing wise. Not with, more of what I call freeform roleplay, which doesn't have a system on it. You just find a group of friends. Usually I do it online and we roleplay. So anyway, I have noticed whenever I come across some people or maybe where you come up with some new characters and we just are not meshing very well, that in a way sometimes forced encounters with each other, even sometimes with systems, and I'm online sometimes because we have more opportunity because I happen to be on my computer, so we'll roleplay, and even though there is a system for it, having these forced interactions between game sessions sometimes helps, especially building some sort of bond, because they're not just talking to each other in the short period of time in which we have to play. They're getting a chance to actually talk to each other outside of playtime, which sort of opens up more opportunity for actual conversation.
Yep.
Or actual things to happen to build a bond. So, if you have time, and especially the internet, like Skype or any other messenger system that you have, if that helps, that might be something else to do.
Yep.
But as for within game time, I guess unless you take a few nights just to try to build that sort of thing, it's kind of hard to do.
Yeah. That's why I recommend doing that outside of the normal game time.
Mm-hmm.
And just, on Skype, just, if the two people have, 15, 20 minutes, a half hour, get them together, have them explain how their characters met, explain how they meshed, and then they'll be able to figure out how they meshed. So that when it comes time for the party to form, to, come together and play, they've already started to gel.
One thing I was thinking of, and I know this is, I'm thinking we have a tendency to do this. At least, I mean, in a lot of these games that I've seen, at least recently, the DM has a tendency to hold the game a little bit too close to the chest, I think, at times. Not necessarily want to reveal everything about what necessarily the campaign is going to be. And just for the players, be able to understand what kind of game the DM's going for and what kind of things might be happening, it gives them a little bit more opportunity to, build that kind of cohesive group.
Yeah.
Also, I don't like, and I don't like to say this because I don't like kind of play. I know players wouldn't necessarily like this. At times, the DM does have to say no.
Yeah.
Sorry, you can't play the water elemental in my campaign that's taking place in the plane of fire. Or
exactly.
other things that just might not.
Or I suppose you could also say, hey, look, you really should not be playing this chaotic evil person when everyone else in the party already said that they're going to be playing some form of good. I'm sorry, then you're actually asking to be.
I don't necessarily think that that's a problem.
I don't think that's necessarily as big of a problem unless you're playing 3-5 and everybody else is playing a paladin.
The big thing I would point to for how you can make that kind of thing work, where you have one person who's chaotic evil in a mostly good party.
Order of the Stick?
Belkar Order of the Stick. Belkar is chaotic evil. Yeah, that is his alignment. The party is mostly good, with Haley being, a more neutral-ish character, but the thing with Belkar that makes it acceptable in that group is everyone knows what Belkar does. Everyone knows his role. He's a ranger barbarian. His role is to get into the thick of things and kill stuff. He loves that role, and they know what he's going to do. And they do their best to rein in some of his tendencies, but he is that weapon for him. So, I mean, you don't necessarily can't be.
So, I guess it kind of depends
as
on
long
how
as
the person plays it.
Yeah.
Which goes to the also thing of player groups is don't let your players be, assholes about it. If a player deliberately plays the chaotic evil and they could deliberately play them as a mass murdering sociopath that has absolutely no regard for what any law says, and he just kills stuff for pretty much no reason, that's the player being, corrupting the game and messing it up.
Yeah, and it's also don't, if you notice that a player is always trying to go out of their way to
mess things up.
To mess things up, or even just sort of pick on somebody else's character, in a way, try reining that in, because that should not be going on at the table.
Yeah.
And sometimes, as hard as it is, removing that player might, and you wait until that becomes absolutely necessary.
Mm-hmm.
You try to rein that in, but if it becomes necessary, you may have to remove the player who's doing it, and it's a hard thing to do, but you may have to do that. I mean, if it's always one person who's messing up the group dynamic, and there's nothing, and you've tried literally everything you can to make sure that to keep them from constantly messing everything up, you might not have to be able to roleplay with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're always going to mess it up. Again, social contract, the players need to work together as much as anything else. It's not necessarily your character concept, but you have to actually, to try to work together.
And again, don't leave that as a final resort, but
Oh, absolutely.
I really think also if you really do feel as though this person is constantly picking on other people's characters, and it seems more of, it's not necessarily that their character is doing anything that invites it, they are literally going out of their way to pick on them, that's inappropriate for your table. And I had noticed that a couple of times before, and I think that's why I kind of, that one time I decided to wipe out half of the party, because everyone was just sort of picking on each other, most of the group was picking on her, harassing each other, and they just weren't getting along. And I'm like, look, you guys need to just, these characters aren't working. So I pretty much wiped out half the group, which is also, this is another last resort thing. Don't do this unless you have to. And this was my first
You
game,
took the
and
nuclear option.
I took the nuclear option probably before I had to.
If it's the game I'm thinking, no, you took it at about the right moment.
Well, one, it was my first game. Two, it was 4th edition, and somebody kept complaining, going, there's no way for the DM to ever, we can't die, there's no way for the players to be killed, the DM can't ever kill anybody. So I had that, and I
Smush,
had the
smush,
fact that
smush.
nobody was getting along with each other except for 2 people, and those 2 people were the only people who got out of my dungeon alive.
And I think one of them was the healer.
It was the
Ranger.
Minotaur in a tutu and the Ranger.
I was a ranger.
Yep.
I might have
And
worked
I
that
believe
one.
the Minotaur in the tutu was also a cleric.
I thought she was a warrior.
Was that Mike?
No,
Did
that
Mike-
was Carolyn's character.
No, that was Carolyn's character.
Okay. Mike seems more like the kind of player who would want to pick the monster race for random reasons.
No, Carolyn chose to be a Minotaur.
Minotaur. And a
Oh
tutu.
yeah, now I remember that one.
Yeah.
She was worried about not being feminine enough, so she wore a tutu.
Yes, now I remember that.
So, yeah, pretty much every single time they... And this is the reason why you said that one time in one of the dungeons, one of the things that you remember the most is you went off on your own. The entire thing is, as long as somebody was doing something on their own and not working with anyone, they were targeted by the monsters in the dungeon. If somebody
Yes.
started a fight with anyone else, they were targeted in the dungeon. So in a way, there was a small lesson for you guys to learn. You guys didn't bother learning it. The only people who got out were the only 2 that were like, look, we're working together. And then after that, everyone else re-rolled, and I think part of the lesson did stick because I noticed that ended.
Yeah, I went through another character in that dungeon, too.
Yes, but that's because you were stupid.
Well, I'm sorry. We had monsters barreling down on us, and I was like, well, crap.
I don't think you died a second time in that dungeon, Nathan. You
Yeah,
died
I
a
did.
second
With
time
my
outside
warlord,
of
I
the dungeon.
remember. There were monsters coming. They were charging us. And I said, okay, I've got one option. I'm going to take my battle standard. I'm going to ram it in this door to buy us some time. You guys get out, and I'll stay here and fight.
Okay.
And I'll buy you time.
But I think he didn't have to do that.
He still did it. and-
Yeah, that's his thing. He always does things he doesn't have to do. Sacrifice myself to save the world from a giant killer bug? Yes, sirree! I had several other options on the table. That one did not even cross my mind.
Yeah.
Yes. But, honestly, I think those are all good ways to help the party mesh. And, of course, the other thing that just really, really helps is for people to talk about their characters
During creation, yeah. You want
during
to...
creation.
We really do need to make character creation, and I know we have a tendency to talk about our problems in this one, but this is a good recommendation for any group. Make character creation a group effort.
Yes.
Make sure you're not going. Make sure that when you have a party, you're not going into battle with a bunch of ranged characters with no one to keep the enemies off the ranged characters.
Yep.
Try to build a group that could work well somehow.
Yeah. And, of course, that's a big thing, too.
I know everyone has their idea for what kind of character you build, but you can't get fixated on just like one idea. Come into the game with a couple different ideas for what you want to play, and see what other people are thinking about making.
Yeah.
Actually, you need to actually work at seeing what might help the group. I mean, you don't necessarily want to. I don't necessarily want to say the first person who says what they want, think what they want, and everyone else goes around them. But try to build your party in a way that would actually mesh and play
And make
people.
sure when you make a character, I know it's a fun idea to play the lone wolf, but make sure when you make a character, especially if you have a large group, that you make a character that is willing to open up to other people, and that you just don't make a closed book that's just going to sit there the entire... Because you're not going to have fun. In the end, you are not going to have fun. Everyone else might be having fun around you, but you are
Don't
not.
make a character when you're told you're a mercenary group that instead of staying in the barracks with everyone else, decides to go out in the forest and sleep in the trees.
Mm-hmm.
Why does that sound so familiar? I swear that happened in one of our games.
It did. He was the only person that spoke the indigenous language.
I mean, I kind of understand it, but at least have your character maybe spend some time in the barrack with everybody else before maybe going out in the... Probably not out in the woods to sleep, though. You don't want to go out that far.
Yeah.
Or if you notice that somebody does have a character like that, maybe have your character, try to, be more friendly. It's like, hey, I see you're going out there to sleep. Mind if I join you? It's kind of crowded in here.
Again, it's group dynamic.
Yeah.
It's group dynamic.
You're trying to actually work as a group.
Mhm.
You don't want one person constantly off by themselves. Sometimes you have the group split up, but you don't want it to be a constant thing where every no Scooby-Doo gangs.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Which is why, if you know it's going to be fairly safe and you see that one person's constantly going off on their own, maybe try getting them to integrate their character in as another player to another player. Try going, hey, I noticed that you're going out there. Can I join you?
Yeah, so...
Yeah. And so with that, we'll close down this discussion for the week. And Ranger Liz has our question.
Yes. What is your favorite melee weapon? I would ask what your favorite Monster Hunter weapon is, but there's someone here I don't think has played Monster Hunter.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't have haven't played too many DS games, or only one.
Well, it's also been on the PlayStation, and I don't think it's been on the Xbox. But whatever.
Whatever.
Hmm.
I've always had a small affinity for double weapons. I like them, and not just because they're kind of cheesy, and you get to if you enchant them, you get to enchant one weapon for 2 weapons for like half the amount. I always kind of liked I thought it was a cool idea. The double sword was something I kind of liked. Oh, and it was also the fact that it was pretty effective in 4E was also kind of a bonus.
That's a hard one for me. I usually end up going with either single-handed sword or a. I'm largely driven by effectiveness. So as much as people seem to like to stick me with a quick weapon,
Mm-hmm.
give me a standard straight sword, give me a chopping blade, give me a battle axe, give me a great sword or great axe.
I was just
I
about to
want
say,
something-
no one in our groups ever uses axes or hammers. It's all swords.
I will say bull on that because
Majority of the
my
time it's
werewolf,
swords.
yes,
It's
majority of the time
it's
it's swords.
swords.
But my werewolf in that one game that lasted forever used a great axe.
Yes, but most of the time you see swords. You don't really see spears.
Well,
You
yeah.
don't see a lot of pole arms. Barring
Um,
you don't see anyone wielding the warhammers too often in our groups.
Yeah,
It's like 75% of the time, it's a sword.
yeah, I was about to say, really the only time I've seen different has been in Exalted games.
Even then, I'm still using swords.
Yeah,
Diclaves
you're still
are
using a
swords.
sword. Yeah, I count Diclaves as swords.
Oh, definitely.
But Mike is using a scythe.
Mm.
Carolyn is using a bow. No.
Yes. It's sword or bow.
Yes,
Yes.
but we have a scythe in there. And one before that, we had, again, another mix of weapons. But, very...
And you might exalted. Well,
In
that
D&D, it's
count
always
as exalted.
swords.
Hmm?
In D&D, it's always
I was
swords.
about to say it doesn't count because you said the only time you ever see different weapons is when you were playing Exalted. I did have a hammer that one game. It was supposed to be an Avatar game, but you decided around.
Yes. And you had a hammer.
It was an Avatar game. It's just
Kind
used
of.
the Exalted system.
Yes.
And
with
the Exalted setting,
is if
it was Avatar.
Avatar with the element of wood.
Okay.
Anyway.
Anyway.
I would also like to mention
What?
something I'm a little bit
Okay.
excited for. I noticed I was looking on cool stuff today, and I noticed they're coming out with a new Dominion expansion. So it's gonna be
Okay.
cool. It's called Adventurers. I forget which. It's gonna bring back some more duration cards and reserve cards, which I'm intrigued to what they're gonna do with that. Hasn't been an expansion since Dark Ages. So apparently they are not content with it being a dead game at this point. So
That's good.
interested to see what they do with it. Looks like it's another full box expansion. So not a half box. So we'll see what it is.
We'll see. Nothing else from you?
One, I didn't get to say my favorite weapons.
Oh,
Short sword.
Sorry.
I also like fist weapons, but I've never actually used them. And
What
I
weapons?
like fist weapons.
Okay.
The
like-
cestus, the guitar.
Punching dagger,
Yeah.
which is a guitar.
I also like knives, but I like them more in the range variant. So I'm gonna have to go. Kind of. I like some melee knife and dagger business going on, but I've never really used it. That's another one I never really used because they seem sort of, to me, nerfed in most game systems.
Yeah, unless you got, like, sneak attack rules.
Yeah.
Or poison.
And then,
Yeah.
the last one I will have to say was I adored my Great Axe when I was playing that werewolf. And now
I'm sure we would have played. I'm sure we would have used great axes during the brief time, we were playing 4E. The problem with the axe and the hammer in 4E was those both have a proficiency of +2 rather than the swords, which are +3. And hitting was so important in that game that it just made it.
Mm-hmm.
It was more important to be able to hit than it was to have the higher damage tags.
Yes.
Yeah, which was unfortunate.
Now, for things I am excited about, you very well know. You are going to find out I am excited about Monster Hunter freaking 4U.
For the
For
3DS.
the 3DS, coming February 13th.
The same day as the new 3DS.
Yes.
Yes, that is
I had-
intended. They are intended to launch together. In fact, you can
I
buy
would have assumed that, but
you can buy a version of the new 3DS with the game preloaded on it.
It looks mexy.
okay.
But yes. And I'll be looking forward to sampling the new weapons.
Yes, I
might
was
actually pick up
supposed
the
to get a
3DS.
Club Nintendo email that gives me a code to download the demo, and it comes with 3 codes, so I could share it with you, but I haven't gotten it yet,
Yeah.
and it's making me sad. I'm sad.
Alright. But, with that said, we will see you all next week.
Yes.
And just remember,
Don't kill us. We're PCs.
bye.
Bye.